I want to turn us and bring us back to where we started, I guess, because the last conversation I had ended with me arguing with the guest, who was Mark Andreessen, the Silicon Valley venture capitalist, about whether he and his allies, who also have a big role in the Trump administration, who are filling a lot of jobs, could easily find big spending cuts. I'm just generally a skeptic of the ability to find big spending cuts. So maybe that's one small point of overlap between you and, I won't call them the tech right, we'll just call them Silicon Valley people who support Donald Trump.
No, Ross,
we don't even have to go into the overlap.
Stop. No, I'm not going to. You're too smart. You're one of the leading public intellectuals, particularly on the right.
Go on.
You are. They're oligarchs.
They're
100% oligarchs. They believe in techno-feudalism. Look, they're all down here for one reason. They either knew we were going to win, they were smart enough to look at the math, or they saw after we won. I mean, Facebook's Damascene moment wasn't until 10 o'clock that night. Now he's down there. They're oligarchs who believe in techno-feudalism. They have nothing. They're not even on the spectrum where we can argue against Rachel Maddow and AOC and Bernie Sanders on the spectrum of they're not on the spectrum.
So
they're
what
they're not telling a different thing.
This phrase is sitting here in my notes because you've used it a bunch. Techno-feudalism. We've talked about immigration, right? You've talked about the idea that Silicon Valley is basically trying to bring in as much foreign labor as possible to presumably keep its own costs down. That's obviously part of what you mean by techno-feudalism. But I don't think that's all of it, right? This is not just about H-1B visas.
No.
Suppose Elon Musk came in tomorrow and said, "No, it's fine, I'm reforming the H-1B program." You would still disagree with him. So give me a broader view of what you think is wrong with the Silicon Valley view.
Just a quick bunch of history. The Obama is the most, in the progressive administration of him and Biden, the most reactionary in American history. Number one, he made a Faustian bargain with the sociopathic overlords in Wall Street to bail us out of the 2008 crisis, which still hasn't been resolved. At the same time, the Obama and the established order went to Silicon Valley and made a deal with them. And the deal was the following: we will allow you to become the wealthiest people in the history of the world. We will let you create an apartheid state. We will let you become monopolies. We will get no anti-trade. In fact, that's why you got Google and search, you got Facebook and what they do, you got Twitter and what they do, you've got Amazon destroying small business for the CCP. Every one of these guys is a monopoly, and the Justice Department for 10 or 12 years has just looked the other way. So we'll let you become monopolies. We'll let you become the wealthiest people on earth. But here's the bargain. Here's what you have to do. You have to make the hegemon, the United States, and the post-war international rules-based order, and the ruling class of this country, you have to make us a dominant technological power of which we have the commanding heights can never be questioned. And over the last 72 hours, what we've seen is two things. Number one, in social media, the Chinese Communist Party and the PLA created TikTok, which is far more powerful than all the social media platforms of these guys put together, right? Forget that they use the information and the ownership. I'm just talking about the addictive nature and how evil can be put in there. And we now know that all the really, let's say hundreds of billions of dollars, not tens of billions, that we put into the theory of the case of blunt force computing power that, the Green New Deal's forgotten, climate change is forgotten. You got to build power generators everywhere. You got to give over federal land for data centers everywhere. We got to burn more coal, more oil for these data centers because our method of AI, we understand that if this is not a psyop, which I don't think it totally is, we've had our Sputnik moment, and guess what? The oligarchs that we created, who were all progressive Democrats, absolutely fucking face-planted. Now, here's the point. In techno-feudalism, you're just a digital serf. Your value as a human being, as someone built and made in the image and likeness of God and endowed with the life spirit of the Holy Spirit, is not, they don't consider that. Everything's digital to them. They are, at the end of the day, transhumanist. And what is transhumanist? Transhumanist is somebody who sees Homo sapien here and Homo sapien plus, right? Plus on the other side, what they call the singularity. And that's why they're all rushing, whether it's artificial intelligence, regenerative robotics, quantum computing, advanced chip design, CRISPR, biotech, all of it to come to this point of which the oligarchs are going to lead that revolution. And why are they going to do it? Number one, when you get to know them and see where they're spending the money, it's because they want eternal life. You know why? Because they're complete atheistic 11-year-old boys that are kind of science fiction, Dungeons and Dragons guys. And we've turned the nation over to that. And yes, I'm going to fight it every fucking step of the way. This is taking us back a millennium to feudalism. This is what their business model is based upon that. And the progressive left made a deal with these guys. They're all lefties. Elon had the first awakening because he could kind of, as an engineer, you could kind of see the math. He fully supported our plan of a base plus election to go get the low information voters and the Moms for America who had flipped during the pandemic. He backed that strategy, and the dude wrote a $250 million check over 5 months, unprecedented, to back our play. He's the first, but the rest of them, even Andreessen, they're all super progressive liberals. They're all techno feudalists. They don't give a flying fuck about the human being, and I don't care if you're black, white, Hispanic, Chinese, they don't care. And they have to be stopped. If we don't stop it, and we don't stop it now, it's going to destroy not just this country, it's going to destroy the world. And you see this artificial intelligence. We have no controls over this. We've allowed these monopolies to exist. And now we know they're getting their ass handed to them, I think, by the Chinese Communist Party. We're in deep shit right now. We're in a crisis.
All right. I want to go to the transhumanist stuff first, and then to the policy stuff and Trump and whether any of this can be stopped. So to me, I think that there are different groups in Silicon Valley. I think that you're right that generally people, including readers of this newspaper, listeners of this podcast, underestimate just how weird the long-term ambitions of a lot of people deeply involved in Silicon Valley are, especially around artificial intelligence, and that there is this sort of.
Balaj and the network state. Let's talk about that. They're not weird.
Well,
they're radicals. Right. They're radicals.
Right, that's a rat. The network state we can save for the next time I have you on. For now, let's just focus on.
I'm going to be invited. I'm going to be
invited.
We got breaking news. Bannon's actually going to be invited back.
We're gonna every week, man. So listen. So the transhumanism stuff, though. So to me, it seemed like one of the things that pulled Elon Musk into the conservative coalition was that while he's certainly not a religious conservative, but he is a kind of weirdo humanist, right? He likes the human race. He wants the human race to continue.
Stop.
No. Okay.
Stop.
So you don't see, to me it seems like Musk is in one group.
Musk is
just as transhumanist as the rest of them.
No, since Edison, maybe our greatest applied engineer.
Okay.
He is a genius in that level. Agreed. And so he looks at the thing as all kind of mathematical equations and from engineering in a big brain. When he puts on something, he can solve it. He is the most prominent of that crowd that's warned against artificial intelligence and artificial general intelligence. It's one of the reasons he and the Altman at OpenAI have had so many big fights. Besides
not big fans of each other. Yep.
They hate each other. I mean, and part of that's personal, but part of it is philosophical. And Brother Musk is probably the farthest down the line because he's the most advanced in chipping. So I think Neuralink is one of the most aggressive about Homo sapien 1.0 or Homo sapien 2.0. Elon is at the tip of this, and Elon is actually on an applied engineering basis, not bullshit talk. He is probably the farthest advanced for transhumanism. People have to understand in the life, and I say life, next 10 years of your audience, we're going to be facing a dilemma for yourself and your kids. Do you enhance yourself? Do you enhance yourself either by genetic engineering? Do you enhance yourself by advanced chip design plugged into you? Do you advance yourself by artificial intelligence? Elon's one of the top accelerationists about driving this thing faster at accelerating at an increasing rate. You're going to have to make a choice in your own life, not just politically in society, your own life. Do I do this? Am I a Luddite? Will I get left behind? More importantly, will my children get left behind? Do my children have a shot to really play sports in a Division I level? Or do my kids have a ability to go to an Ivy League school unless I get them enhanced? These questions, deep questions, never before handled in mankind's history, are going to happen and going to happen in the next couple of years.
But so let's then take it back to politics, right? I don't see this critique that you're offering, a kind of, we'll call it a kind of religious humanist critique of Silicon Valley, where AI is going, maybe where, digital augmentation is going. I don't see this as expressed in any kind of powerful way in the Trump White House. 2 weeks in, making big announcements with Sam Altman, right? Big announcements about investing in AI. One of the main reasons, clearly from my conversation with Mark Andreessen, that part of Silicon Valley swung toward Trump was a fear of regulation on AI from the Biden administration. I completely agree with you that the Obama era made this kind of broad-based deal with Silicon Valley. Different people would describe it differently, but there was a deal. The Biden administration reneged on the deal, right? They did antitrust stuff. They tried to regulate all these things.
I'm going to disagree with you. The whole of government and leading the whole of society had a thing that they wanted a few large entities of which they then could kind of try to control, right? And stop the entrepreneurs. And that's, I think, Andreessen in the venture capital community.
Yeah, Andreessen, he obviously did not like that. But I mean, from your perspective, right, if AI is a threat to our humanity, and it's going to happen in some form, it's going to happen in China in some form, right? Wouldn't it be better to have the Biden approach of a kind of state capture of AI than to have, endless proliferating technology? Or is it better to have, which form of AI do you, as an AI skeptic, prefer? The Andreessen version or the Biden, three big company version?
If you have, Ross, if you have the beginning of the kinetic part of the Third World War and the Eurasian landmass, and you have...
Meaning China versus Taiwan, just to put it in layman's terms.
No, I mean 1,000,007 people killed in Ukraine or wounded in Ukraine.
Okay.
The Middle East. I'm talking about that. And by the way, China
we have
ready
already.
to go. Yeah. I'm saying Trump's got to handle that. The problems are such a scale, and what he's doing there is magnificent. Now, when you talk about the deeper issues we face, it's a process. I started off, when I first started this, people that I really admire were just like, populism, what are you talking about? It's like, and don't say nationalism, because that's, nationalism doesn't go to a good place. I said, no, we're populist nationalists. So I've had long odds before. This one's long odds. Now we've got the Sputnik moment that, can you let the Chinese Communist Party get ahead of you? Can you let these bad actors get ahead of you? And now we're in a horrible national security dilemma. And yes, President Trump, as he always does, and this is the way President Trump rolls, President Trump listens to a lot of voices, and he will think it over, and then he'll make a decision. And clearly, the oligarchs have, because of their ability to get in there, and also I consider the inauguration day like they're on display, like on the deck of the battleship Missouri, and he's MacArthur, and they're there. They're the Imperial Japanese staff signing the surrender document, but they're in there. They're inside. They're inside the wire.
Well, and there's a difference. I mean, I think what you said about Zuckerberg, though, is right. There's a group of people in tech who decided to support Trump the night that he won the 2024 election. That's absolutely true. And a lot of the guys who were there for the inauguration were, I think defeated generals paraded in a Roman triumph, right? But Musk is not like that, right? Musk is not like that. A bunch of the people around Musk are not like that.
Yes, and I don't think Andreessen's like that either.
Right. No, these are people who were already deeply alienated from...
Hang on. Andreessen and Musk are smart enough to be able to get below the surface on the numbers and see the direction of the country and climb on board as the techno-feudalist early on. They are hardcore techno-feudalists. They're not populists. I tease Elon all the time. If I could turn him from a techno-feudalist globalist to a populist nationalist, we could make some progress here. He's definitely a techno-feudalist, one of the hardest core. And so is Andreessen. Andreessen, these guys are smart. I mean, Andreessen, these guys, you're talking about genius level intelligence. These are not dumb people. But they're not with us when it comes to the little guy. Listen.
Right. Well, their view is let's give it its due, right? Their view is connected to the argument you just made, right? Which is that there's a technological frontier. We are competing with China on a technological frontier. Andreessen basically made a kind of his own. He did not make a populist argument, but he made a nationalist argument. He said, look, we want, and what the Trump administration has promised us is for America to win, for our companies to win, for us to outcompete the Chinese and have what it takes to keep America, sort of ahead of the curve, which we are at the moment. Even, yes, I agree, deep seek, the sort of the Chinese AI raises a lot of questions about AI strategy. But the U.S.
I don't believe one fucking sentence of that. They don't believe that. They believe in this country because right now it protects them and provides some benefits to them. Remember, we bailed out these fucks on Silicon Valley Bank. Biden bailed them out when they couldn't make payroll. They could make payroll if they put more of their own money in, but they wouldn't. They have little guy bail them out in the Silicon Valley Bank. Now, in the last couple of days, what are they talking about? Oh my gosh, we need a Marshall Plan. We need a space plan. We need a Mercury Plan. We need hundreds of billions of dollars from taxpayers. They want essentially a bailout. If it's a Sputnik moment, somebody's got to ask the question, yo, Andreessen, we made a deal with you guys. Elon, we made a deal with you guys. We made you oligarchs. We made you the richest people in the fucking history of the earth. We stopped any antitrust. That's what pisses me off the most. No antitrust, not breaking these companies up and allowing entrepreneurs to get in there.
Right.
And because Mark Andreessen doesn't believe in the entrepreneurial system in the country. No way.
I mean, I don't know. Just to defend prior guests on this program as a matter of policy, I think there is a big difference between how the big social media companies regarded themselves and how venture capital world regarded itself. I'm not going to look into anybody's soul and think about whether they believe in America, but they do believe believe in a different form of competition than does Google and Facebook and so on. I think that's real, and I think that's why they've always been. That's why they were always more sympathetic to the right.
But I'm not saying even Andreessen's a bad guy at the heart of it, but they're not. They don't think of the sovereign. They're American as an idea. America's not an idea. It's not. Right. It's a country with a border and a group of citizens that's the greatest resource we've ever had. And the apartheid state of Silicon Valley thinks we don't need our greatest resource, which are the American citizens. They'd rather import basically indentured servants to work at third less and have an apartheid state. And then as soon as they can replace them with digital serfs,
all right, let's bring it. So that's good. Let's bring it back to policy, and then to Trump himself on policy. Again, I don't think any of this is happening. But what is, what is the specific populist answer to the oligarchs that you're talking about? Is it, Trump should keep Lina Khan around and do antitrust stuff? Is it, taxation on these companies? Is it just not spending money and not investing in AI? Is it regulations on AI? What you could wave a magic wand and have the Trump White House do what you want around this stuff. What would you do?
Number one, I would be a huge supporter of Lina Khan remaining, and I would love to see Lina Khan given more power. And I think we ought to go and break up Silicon Valley because obviously in their scale, they haven't performed very well. Let's be brutally frank. If we're to believe TikTok, the power of TikTok, which is evident, self-evident, and if you believe the power or the nascent power of DeepSeek and other things that are being released right now. So I also believe you have to have kind of massive, we can't be in a situation where the state underwrites and it gives the accumulation of power. If the revolutionary generation came back, they would spit on the floor. And look, it's complicated. There are no easy solutions. I would love to have, I would like to have a quick investigation in exactly how the intelligence community missed this. There's so many questions, and I realize that people who are humanist or people who are religious and put their religion at the center of their being are going to be really on their back foot now with all the forces of world power against you. And the thing is going to be, you can't be a Luddite. To be a Luddite and to want this to slow down, or like the people in the Fahrenheit 415 or whatever, the book, are out in the woods, have memorized the book.
They're memorizing the great books.
The humanist.
Well, we'll have podcasts.
The human element in the humanist you don't have that moment because right now we have to strike because you have to compete on a national security basis because this is like Sputnik. It's an arms race.
Right.
We're in a nuclear arms race. And I would just tell people, and particularly your readers, who do not agree with me politically on anything, if I can beseech you for one thing, is you must start to understand the moment we're in. This is an inflection point, not just for this country. This is an inflection point for the world. And President Trump will always listen to the entrepreneurs who have been very successful. It's just his default position. And I realize that this is going to be a complicated argument to make, but we're going to have to think this thing through collectively. This is a whole of society decision. What I want is a public discussion and debate over the biggest issues of the day, particularly the size and scope of the federal government and how we spend money and where we spend it and who's taxed and who's not taxed. Also, what comes after the post-war international rules-based order, because I think President Trump, thinking through hemispheric defense from the Panama Canal to Greenland
up to
genius.
Greenland,
is genius. And as being a naval officer, I would tell you, it has so much logic to it. There's so much going on, but give this guy a chance on his on the basic plan that he's got for the safety and security of this country, and with asking hard questions, et cetera. And let's get into these deep issues.